Well, you know what they say. There's, well, at least I know what I say. There's nothing like a deadline to get you going. And it seems that's what they were doing in the Michigan House last night, up all night in session until after 5 this morning. And Representative John Bizon is on the line now from Lansing to talk about that. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Richard. It is great to have you back, and thank you so much for letting me join you this morning.
Well, thank you, considering you haven't slept yet. And since you are a doctor, I guess we can ask this. If you stay up all night, how quickly is your immune system affected?
Well, I'm hoping, I heard a lot of coughs going around that room last night. So hopefully we'll stay healthy through all of this. And, I'm looking forward to finishing up probably later today. Right now we are at recess, and we will be reconvening probably 1 o'clock-ish. I think that we are scheduled for a 1 o'clock start. And typically there's a little wiggle room whenever we get started. Mm-hmm. The Senate is coming back at 10 o'clock this morning, so they may have a load of bills that they're going to finish up on and send it over our way, and then we'll send them whatever we had from last night, and we'll also, I think, have another 10, 15 bills that we need to look at that we just didn't get to yet. And we wanted to finish those up this afternoon as well.
So this is just a crunch time kind of thing.
It really is, that anything that we do not accomplish here within the last little period of time is going to lapse. It's going to fall to the wayside. It will be considered dead, and all the work that got done on those bills in committee will need to be regenerated again with the next session as we start again. I guess technically it begins January 1st, but we actually get back to work around January 11th. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have all of the bills that were of interest to us reintroduced. And, if each of the 110 representatives puts in 10 bills that they were interested in continuing, you're going to have about a pool of about 1,000 bills that we can look at and try to send off to various committees and look to see what was done the previous term. But all the hearings have to be repeated, and all of the committee work needs to be repeated on both sides of the House and Senate, both sides of the chamber.
All right, we're talking with Representative John Bizon from Lansing today after an all-night session for the House. A few hours break and back at it here in the lame duck session. We'll take a break, and the sense is energy and the issue of energy may have been in the crux of some of the discussions last night. We'll talk about that in just a moment on WBCK. We're on the line with Representative Dr. John Bizon from Lansing, where the House of Representatives was in session all night trying to get things done under the wire. The governor was there, too, we understand?
He has a particular interest in energy, and yes, he was with us. I saw the lieutenant governor there several different times throughout the evening. He had Dick Posthumus, one of his key advisors, with him up throughout the night. He had his energy gurus there. His energy people were there. And apparently this was a very special night in that, how when you were in college, you always waited until that last weekend to write that term paper?
Yep.
Well, I think some of that apparently has gone on because there has been a great deal of discussion about the energy bills, and there was never consensus. And last night, through a great deal of negotiating, we finally came up with consensus between some of the alternate energy suppliers and the manufacturers and all the people. I shouldn't say all. The vast majority of the people who were or who had concerns regarding the energy bills that were being taken out of the Senate. These are Mike Knopf's bills.
Yep.
Over to the House, and they said, we really can't live with this and we can't live with that. And the governor took them all seriously, and, he brought them both into a room and said, the session is going to be ending and all of this is going to die unless we can come up with consensus. And get concessions on all sides. And so the alternate energy suppliers and the chamber and the manufacturers and the schools and many of the other major players who use this alternate energy model were in the room and came up with the model that they really were able to support. And it preserves choice. It allows for net for decoupling, where excuse me, I have that tickle in my throat.
Don't let that eventuate into anything.
Yeah, hopefully not. And it increases energy efficiency, and that net metering to me was one of the important pieces that we wanted to see. But it preserves competition in the market, and because of that, I know there will probably be several people that I talk to who are going to be much more supportive of the energy bills, and I still have a couple phone calls out, but I do anticipate being able to be supportive of these bills that will get us changes and protect our energy supply going into the long-term future.
So you had some issues with it yourself.
I did. I really wanted to see us be able to put up shingles and get a reasonable return. And anyone who has shingles up right now is going to be grandfathered under the program. And right now, basically, when you produce energy off shingles on your own house, the meter is wired to run backwards so that you get the full retail value
right.
of that energy that you produce for that energy that you are saving the utilities. And if we have enough people doing this, then the utilities don't have to build that extra coal plant or gas plant or generation plant to generate more energy, and that would be a huge cost savings to everyone who buys energy from them. By the same token, if there is any generation under the new bills, it won't automatically default to the utility to produce it, but if you are an alternate energy supplier, if you are someone who wants to get into the business of providing energy, you can make a case to the Public Service Commission and compete against the utility saying that, yes, I think that I can do this even better than the utility can, and if you make a decent case to the Public Service Commission, they're going to have to consider you for the production of that energy and filling that niche that you may need during peak times or just in general being added back into the grid. So I think that there are some very, very good things in the new bill. There's an emphasis on energy efficiency, and we are still concerned with transmission, particularly into the Upper Peninsula, because we are a peninsula state, but we're really 2 or 3 or 4 peninsulas. You know, you would look at the thumb area and you could say, wow, that's a peninsula up there, and you have the entire Upper Peninsula as being a separate second peninsula, and they typically get all of their energy from Wisconsin. They're in a whole different transmission region than all of the Lower Peninsula, but the Lower Peninsula is getting all of its transmission up from the south because it doesn't go across the water. We don't have any lines going through the water.
Yeah.
And because of that, the transmission back into this state is limited to what can come up through those southern lines. And especially with the plants beginning to shut down, we need to make sure that when you flip on the lights, that we are secure in our source of energy. And there are those in the market who would say, yes, but the market ought to be free. There ought to be competition in the market. And this new series of bills, it's just 2 bills. So these couple of bills do very much that. They protect that competition in the marketplace.
We're talking with Representative John Bizon on the line from Lansing today after an all-night session in the lame duck session in the House, trying to get things done before things are over. One more day, and they will be. We'll back in a moment to pick up where we leave off, find out what's on the agenda ahead. Representative John Bizon on the line from Lansing. So pensions were, public pensions were being discussed recently, and there was some dust kicked up, and and then things quieted down in that regard. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think that, yes, there was a significant outcry, and I think there was a great deal of confusion over what was being considered when we were dealing with some of the pension issues. We have a problem in the state that a lot of the municipal pensions are not being adequately funded. This falls in that region of other post-employment benefits, the OPEBs, that you oftentimes are offered, but unless the municipalities are putting money into these programs, we are going to have concerns, and there are some municipalities that are very, very good at funding their pensions as well as their health care and other post-employment benefits that are offered by the municipalities. And if they're going to fund it, then the state was saying, we have no interest in intervening, and you're good, just go ahead and keep that. But if the municipalities, as we found out in Detroit, are not funding this, we don't want those promises to fall back on all of the taxpayers of Michigan to have to go back and fund. You know, it seems like that would be a unwise use, and I believe that there are billions of dollars that we are talking about here in benefits that either will need to be made up or have some plan as to how to address it. Right now, pensions are typically funded only to a 80% level. 80% of the anticipated actuarial costs is what is recommended, and a lot of the, I want to call it guessing, the actuarial soundness of these plans is based upon a return of 8%. And that 8% return on investment is something that we haven't seen in the last 5, 6, 7 years with interest rates being as low as they have been. If you take a look at some of the well-managed plans, they may get 5 or 6% return on investment over these years, and then you take a look at what the actuaries are saying, and they're saying that over a 30-year period, 8% return would be a much more reasonable return, and yet over the past 5, 6, 7 years, we haven't seen that. It bears the question of, is this pension fully funded or is it not?
So discussions about this are going to have to wait till the next session.
That is true. You know, we shelved it. I think it was Lee Chatfield whose committee this was in, and he looked at this and said, you know, we're just going to have to push this back for a little bit. There's also some discussion separately on school pensions. The schools have a problem in that they anticipated always having greater numbers of students and greater numbers of teachers being in the system to pay for the pensions of those who had since retired. And we are finding that that isn't an accurate interpretation of what is actually happening. Our student populations are falling, and because of that, the numbers of teachers that are employed are falling, and then you have the school choice and the charter schools that don't put into that system and have their own separate pension systems, and that again takes out from the anticipation that you're going to have a great number of active teachers funding the pensions of those who are retiring. And a lot of times you're going to find that the projections are upside down, that the numbers of pensioners are going to vastly outnumber the number of active teachers contributing to those pension systems. And so that's going to require a little bit of work as well. And again, that too has been put off for the time being, and we will address that again when we get back in January.
All right, before you go, I got about a minute here. You were working on a bill that had ramifications in Springfield. That passed, didn't it?
That did. We passed it in the House, I want to say, before the summer break. And it's been sitting over on the Senate side, and it's only here during lame duck that we were able to get that through the Senate as well. And here I have to thank my good Senator Mike Knopf's for helping push that through the Senate. But that was one of these bills in lame duck that's going to be coming through. And for the city of Springfield, this is a huge deal because this plot that the Legion Villa was sitting on is something like 3% of the land of Springfield. And right now it's not collecting any taxes, and this is going to allow a developer to come in. And they already have had significant expenses onto this land, and that Springfield came in and they raised the buildings that were condemned and were not worthy of standing. And now we're going to have a developer looking at this and being added back into the tax rolls. And we take a look at the economic opportunities that are available for the building and the businesses that are going to be out there. And, I'm just very excited that we're going to be able to deliver this back to Springfield and get it back to improve the economic opportunities going into the future.
All right, and we appreciate your bringing us up to date on that. Representative Dr. John Bizon, live from Lame Duck, I guess you could say, in Lansing this morning after an all-night session. We'll get out of your hair so you can take a little rest, and we'll catch up in January. Happy holidays, and thank you very much.